Welcome to Stone Cold Stros. I'm Brandon Strange with Charlie Palillo and Josh Jordan. You can find them on X at Palillo and at Josh Jordan 975. And in between episodes of this show, you can read their work on sportsmap.com, covering all things Houston sports. On today's episode, spring training is done, and just like real grapefruit, it was sweet for some, bitter for others. We get some eye-raising roster news to react to, some final spots to pontificate over. And we're going to get into some win projections for this season. Just a reminder to please hit like on the video, subscribe to the channel, click the bell for notifications so you know as soon as new content drops. And when you're on the go, you can listen to us on all your favorite podcast apps. Just search Stone Cold Stros. And a quick programming note, the three of us will be live Thursday following the game on opening day. So come on in, react, overreact, plan the parade, or talk us off the ledge. Who knows? So guys, the Grapefruit League is donezo. Astros cap it off with a win over the Nats. Houston goes 16-12-1. And if YouTube copyright strikes weren't a thing, this would be now when I would be playing Europe's Final Countdown, but you'll just have to imagine it in your head. The three of us were actually texting after the first wave of cuts over the weekend because, Josh, you had the concern last episode that Astros would probably carry at least one of Ben Gamel or John Singleton because they are lefties. This team has historically carried at least one light-hitting lefty on the bench for the sole reason that they are lefties. But then Houston goes and grants Ben Gamel his release because he requested it, and John Singleton gets informed he won't be making the opening day roster, so he'll be exposed to waivers. Not a lefty, but Luis Guillorme also misses the cut. Joe Espada told the media they will not finalize anything until Wednesday. But there are currently 5 guys vying for 3 spots. And those guys are Zach DeZenzo, Cooper Hummel, Brendan Rodgers, Zach Short, and Cam Smith, all in the running for one of those final 3 position player spots. So this question is not just for the panel, but also for the audience watching and listening as well. But give me your general reactions to the cuts to this point. And Charlie, if this is Baseball Bachelor, what kind of odds are you giving Cam Smith to get a rose to make this opening day roster?
First, I want to wave to Ben Gamel, who was paid $200,000 to attend spring training. And with the Astros trying to finesse themselves underneath the first tax threshold, and you have to have money in reserve as you call up minor leaguers who get paid major league salaries upon recall. And if you have a trade acquisition or two you want to make at the deadline, $200,000 shouldn't be problematic. Nevertheless, not bad to get to go to Florida and make 80% of $250,000 for it. Look, the decisions they have to make, obviously Cam Smith is the foremost, and it will be a baseball decision. But the Astros have nothing remotely approaching a PR crisis, but the buzz about the team is not strong. As in, 3 days from opening day, there are plentiful seats available for opening day, right? In the last several years, that's been, they go like hotcakes 7 minutes after they were put up for sale. They've been up for sale for weeks. Now, it's going to wind up a sellout one way or another. They will declare it so. But there are hundreds and hundreds of seats, sections all around the ballpark where, hey, you want to go Thursday? Now, of course, let's go with price increases rather than gouging market economy. I mean, it's crazy what it costs to attend opening day. You can go Friday at a mere pittance relative to Thursday. So who might you see on Thursday? Cam Smith makes the team. He's the opening day right fielder, and he's the mostly everyday right fielder. So, you can't carry Smith and DeCenzo. You want them getting every day at bats. In what world can Cam Smith and Zach DeCenzo ever both be regulars in the Astros outfield? There's one scenario, because neither of them has any chance of being a center fielder. So unless Altuve, left fielder, is aborted, and he's going back to second because it's not like Jordan's going to become the primary left fielder, and Smith or DeCenzo winds up in left, the other in right, Jake Myers in center, you still have Chas McCormick on the roster. So to me, I am not sending DeCenzo to the minors because I need him to get everyday at bats. There is nothing about Cooper Hummel that is a Major League Baseball player other than if he's carried on the roster. He's 30 years old. He's never made it. In his limited taste, he has a career 159 batting average. He's 5'9", so he does not give you first base defensive versatility. DeCenzo does with Caratini. And let's see on Christian Walker. The expectation is he answers the bell Thursday, but what if there's an early hiccup with him? So to me, I would carry DeCenzo as a potential bat and infielder, outfielder sub. Looks like Brendan Rodgers is safe as a job share initially with Dubon at second. So to me, because the one guy who pretty clearly is not a major leaguer is Cooper Hummel. Unless he has that Gray Kessinger role, you're on the roster, but you almost literally never play. He's the guy I'd set out.
I'm with you, Charlie. He's my one concern of somebody that can swing the bat from the left side. We're like, are they going to keep him just because of that? He's also a guy that gives you flexibility in a pinch. He can play a little bit of catcher, a little bit of corner outfield, some first base, just kind of your super utility man. But I think you have better options. I'm with you, Charlie. I'd like to see DeCenzo and Smith on the roster, but just based on what Espada said, they want those guys to play every day. So if I'm going to take him at his word, I think it's either DeCenzo or Smith. I'm going to trust Espada. He's usually pretty open about what he's thinking about. So if that's the way they go, I'd like to see what Cam Smith can do. It's a shame for DeCenzo because he's played so well and he's really earned an opportunity on this team. And it made me think, I was like, God, could he play second base? Because it's not like you're super excited about Dubon over there. Brendan Rodgers, I'm a little more optimistic about. I really want him to make the team and maybe see if he can do something. But I looked at DeCenzo's minor league stats. He played like a limited amount of games, like in high A ball at second base, but nothing recently. If they value defense so much at that position, I guess it just doesn't make sense to put him over there. So, but who knows? Cam Smith was your third baseman, and now they're talking about him starting in right field. He was going to be a third baseman in the minors. So they're being a little more flexible with opportunities and experience on defense. But that's where I'm looking. I think, Caratini makes the most sense at first if you need a backup over there, and they roll with that. So, I just want to see Cam Smith get a shot. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But Chas McCormick has been so poor. I don't think he's earned a starting spot. He can be your backup for Jake Myers in center field. And, he's a guy you can put in the outfield if you just need somebody in a pinch.
DeCenzo was a college shortstop.
Mm-hmm.
That was college. And due respect to the Big Ten, it's not SEC level baseball there. At the big league level, you put together a list of shortstops or second basemen, 6'5" or taller, you're not going to need a lot of paper and pen. DeCenzo started a dozen games at first base for the Astros last season. So he and Caratini would be the logical Walker replacements if Christian Walker can't go. Josh, you hit it. If Cam Smith makes the team, McCormick is strictly backup and defensive replacement because Cam Smith's not on the major league roster to platoon. He's not there to watch and learn. He's either in the lineup or he's in the minor leagues. I will note, one, the giddy level of excitement at Cam Smith obviously engendered, and rightfully so, by just clobbering it to start the spring, was a small sample size. But for those who were going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs over that sample size, Smith did take 2 offers in his last 3 games in the spring to bring his numbers down into the stratosphere, at least, as opposed to intergalactic. But why not? Give him the shot. And as we've talked about, if he starts 2 for 24 with 11 strikeouts, then you can just send him to the minors with, you need to work on this a little bit, a young guy. He turned 22 years old during spring training, not 19. McCormick stunk most of the spring, but a home run is his last game in Florida. I just hope the plan of attack isn't to be defensive substituting for 2 of your starting outfielders late in games. Altuve's in left and Cam Smith is in right, because that would be a beyond shaky game plan if that's the way to go.
Yeah, and I guess going back to the Singleton thing, just real quick, on a quick personal note, you guys know I was pretty excited when Singleton got called up, just because we've followed his story. We know what personal journey he's been on. So it's unfortunate it didn't work out for him, but he did get to play a full season last season with the big club. Posted, for him a career year, which was all, obviously that's not saying much given his track record, but I think it was pretty cool. Unfortunately, story comes to an end, but I think all in all, in the big picture, looking at it from a human interest story, I think it was pretty cool that Singleton got to come back and have a full year on a major league roster with the team that drafted him. You bring up shortstops, Charlie. Speaking of shortstops, Jeremy Pena has had a really, really nice spring for himself. I want to get your thoughts on how pivotal it would be for this team for him to put up a number 2, but you also raised the question of Jose Altuve. We've talked about guys being on short leashes. So I want to ask you a two-part thing that may have nothing to do with one another other than these people share the infield. But Jeremy Pena, how big is it that he has a big year for this team, that he can find some semblance of regularity with the bat? And then also, what's the time frame in which this team decides they need to pull the plug on Altuve? Like what's the threshold where they go, this is just not working and left?
On Pena, I would be content with a mild elevation. He's been a very consistent player over his 3 years in the major leagues, consistently mediocre as an offensive player, save that stuff of legend 2022 postseason. But rather than that being a platform toward superstardom, that was his rookie season, his OPS has gone down and then down. It was 701 last season. He was 15th among major league shortstops in OPS, right? That defines mediocrity right there. Now, what he has been is very solid defensively. No Ozzie Smith, but very solid defensively. And he has been durable, right? He posts on an everyday basis, and that has value even if you're average as opposed to superior. On base percentage is the critical number for me with Pena. He's not going to hit 470 in the regular season. I believe he finished spring training without drawing one walk.
Yeah.
He averaged under one walk per week last season. And 25 walks in a 26-week season is entirely unacceptable for an everyday player. And that's why Jeremy Pena, while having decent batting averages, right, 260s type stuff, the on-base percentage blows, right? Career OBP of 307, 308, whichever one wasn't the number last season, is the career number over 3 years. If he can get that to just 330, I mean, there's zero chance, hey, Jeremy Pena evolves into what healthy Carlos Correa used to be, what Bobby Witt Jr. is. But if he can just be an above average, indisputably above average offensive player, coupled with his overall talents, and with that on-base percentage, right, 50 stolen bases as the goal, you're not stealing 50 bases with an on-base percentage of 307, 308. But Pena taking at least some step. Otherwise, frankly, he shouldn't be secured as this team's long-term shortstop if Bryce Matthews, who they want to hype up, was to make a serious push and another second base alternative was to loom. So it's not like it's a make or break year for Jeremy Pena. He's this and 2 more seasons still away from free agency. But if he's to be a real plus major leaguer, now's the time.
I just want to see the thump come back with Jeremy Pena. Just the default. If you look at his rookie year, 22 home runs. He slugged 426 that year. And then you look at last year, 15 home runs, slugged 394. So, in just looking at that, Charlie brought up the walks, 22 walks in his rookie year, only 25 last year. So, can we at least get, if we're not going to walk, can we at least get back to more of that power, more of that slugging, the home runs? That's what I want to see from Pena. And on-base percentage is nice, but I just don't think he's going to make some sudden change at this point in his career and going to be a guy that's getting a bunch of walks. And also, if he's hitting 6th in the lineup, if Cam Smith doesn't turn into what we think he could be, and if it is McCormick behind him in the lineup and Jake Myers, and I mean, how many runs are that? Like, how often is Pena going to get driven in if he's getting walks and infield singles with the bottom of this Astros order? So I'd like to see him add the power back to his game. I think that's huge. And with Singleton, it was a nice story, Brandon. I'm with you. It's just, it doesn't look like a fit anymore. They gave it a try. He got a lot of opportunities last year, but I think last year was the first season that he's been up and down, but it's the first year, that he finished with a batting average over 200 at 234. Now we know the OPS is a little better than that, over 700, but just how many times did he come up in big situations and it never panned out? It seemed to be like, all right, we got Singleton up. He's a guy that can, flip this game, on its head. And it's just, it hasn't happened for him. So you wish him the best. We'll see if he picks up somewhere else. I saw just the other day that the Padres are going to have Maldonado and Yuli on their opening day roster. So who knows? Maybe Singleton can find a spot with another ball club.
Jason Hayward with the oldie ex-Astros also in San Diego. I would add the great Joey Loperfido didn't even make the Toronto Blue Jays. Nope. Jake Bloss didn't even make the Toronto Blue Jays. Will Wagner, defensive liability, but he'll get some run at DH with the Jays. Singleton will always be remembered by some around here for working that walk ahead of Altuve's 3-run homer at Game 5. We know how the series worked out. So now to Altuve, I think he'll have to be an unmitigated disaster out in left field for them to pull the plug sooner than later. But blend that with what output are they getting at second base? Brendan Rodgers has been a lousy major leaguer offensively outside of Coors Field, a 628 career OPS everywhere but Mile High Country. Mauricio Dubon is not a quality offensive player. If Dubon hits 260, he's not a good offensive player because there's limited power and he's in the I never draw walks club. So if second base is just part of Adam Everett, Brad Ausmus, and the pitcher spot, quality bottom third of the order, and you're thinking, hey, DeCenzo in left, Cam Smith in right, Myers, McCormick in center, that it improves your offensive upside some over going with the older second baseman. Right? Altuve still at least makes the routine plays at second. The range is a real problem there, but it's not as if a ground ball gets hit to Jose Altuve and you're covering your eyes. In left field, there are going to be times where you cover your eyes, and you can't hide the arm out there, the extra bases that he'll give up. As we've discussed, I think he'll settle in fine in catching fly balls and getting the timing down on making the transfer and so forth. I think the real critical one on Altuve is that at least he holds his offensive level, because 2022, 2023, he was a superstar offensive player. 2024, he was a good offensive player, meaning OPS over 900, 22 and 23, 790 in 24, which is very good, but it's not super duper star stuff. A couple months away from turning 35, if there's further decline in year one of a 5-year contract while the guy's learning a new position, that would be a whole lot of uh-oh attached.
Yeah, and we discussed it last week, but if Cam Smith gets tapped for right field, that means 2/3 of your outfield are players playing their first seasons ever in those positions, one of them being a rookie. Fingers crossed on how that's going to work out. Just a quick message. If you're interested in advertising your service or product on this show, you can contact our friends over at the sales team at houston.sportsmap.com/advertise. The link is in our description. Now, we've talked about the bullpen earlier in spring training, but not recently. I know we've been talking about it and we've had notes to the effect of getting around and talking about it. Just haven't because of time and news. But now that we know that who 7 of the 8 relievers will be, this is probably as good a time as any to circle back to it. One guy we neglected to talk about thus far this spring has been Stephen Okert, former Giant, Marlin, Twin, career ERA of 3.92 and a whip of 1.22. He struck out 17 over 11 innings pitched this spring. He earned himself a spot in the bullpen alongside Hader, Abreu, Scott, King, Contreras, and a guy by the name of Rafael Montero. Caleb Ort and Forrest Whitley will start the year on the IL, sounds like, but won't need much past the 15-day stint, according to Chandler Rome. Both are scheduled to throw bullpens on Monday. From the sounds of it, the team's pretty optimistic about their timely return. Did you guys, speaking of guys on the IL, did you guys know that the White Sox have had 6 guys diagnosed with UCL tears in spring training? 6 pitchers, 6 TJs over less than a 6-week period. So that's pretty incredible. But
I'd heard the playoff chances.
Yeah, that'll be one.
What did you guys think? Let's get back to the Astros, though. What do you guys think of the bullpen makeup as it stands right now? What are you excited about? Where are your concern levels? But save Montero, because I want to circle back and ask about that separately. But your thoughts, bullpen minus Montero, go.
Well, for credit to Okert, right? He is a journeyman. He's the 3rd lefty in their bullpen after Hader and King. Over a span of outings in about 3 weeks, he almost pitched a no-hitter. His first 8 2/3 of the spring, he didn't give up a hit. He's not going to be a critical member of the bullpen, right? He'll be a 5th, 6th inning, come in to face 3 batters minimum if that's the spot, if not to get one lefty out to end it in. But, this could have been last chance for Guess. Make the team. He might not pitch in the major leagues again. So props to him for having the major spring. Hader, Abreu, you hope Taylor Scott is the guy who pitched for the Astros the first 4 months or so of last season. Can Brian King kind of pick up where he left off? It was only 25 innings, but he was very good. Not much of a resume, but he was very good. And then the back half of the bullpen, as we've talked about, find teams that have 6, 7, 8 truly dependable bullpen arms. And the Astros will also do some of that elevator stuff where if a guy pitches 2-3 days in a row, you're down to Sugarland because you're not available for a couple of days, and you call someone else up. Luis Contreras had a nice spring. Like Okert, the games don't count, right? The first time you have a bad outing at the big league level, you're putting yourself in position to be off the 26-man roster.
Yeah, with Contreras, he finished this spring with a 0 ERA. I mean, him and Okert, a few of these guys did. They pitched really well, but Contreras wasn't that great last year in very limited action. We'll see. And we know 2 of these guys are probably going to be going down pretty quick when Whitley and Ort return from the IL. So something to keep in mind there. We were talking before the show. I'm like, what is the deal with Whitley? Every time he gets an opportunity, something happens or he gets hurt. I was joking. Is he walking around just smashing mirrors and walking under ladders? Like, this guy just can't seem to catch a break. And it makes you really worry that, here we are again. This is his final year to do it. And he's having this great spring. And then he hurts his knee as a pitcher. Like, I don't know how he did it. I wasn't there, but I found that kind of odd. That it was a bruise. I mean, did he fall down fielding a ball? Or I have no idea, but just something to keep an eye on because he's one of those other stories, Brandon, like with Singleton and just like good stories. You're like, hey, maybe finally Forrest Whitley will give you something. And you start to get your hopes up. He's having a great spring. He's throwing 98 miles an hour. Now he's hurt again. So hopefully he'll be back soon. But I have to say, Brian King's the guy I'm really excited about because I liked him last year and he showed me some really positive things. And then he comes out this year with an ERA in the 2s in spring. I just think he's a guy that can get lefties and righties out. He doesn't throw super hard, but he's effective with what he can do around 92, 93 miles an hour with some breaking stuff. So he'll be a guy I keep my eye on, especially if Taylor Scott falls back to earth a little bit. Maybe you need Brian King a little more this year.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on King. Pretty excited about him. Forrest Whitley will not be one of the guys playing the elevator game, to Charlie's point, because he's going to be out of options, which is why he had to make this roster. Another guy out of options is Rafael Montero. Posted a 4.15 ERA, struck out 10 over 8 2/3 innings pitched in spring. I just wanted to circle back to this because I wanted how much of this him making this roster was about team depth, lack of options, and how much is this Houston just trying to squeeze the remaining bit of what's left of that terrible contract?
Yeah, and as one of the last couple of guys in the bullpen, unless he rediscovers the performance to move him up. And here's where there's fungibility to the bullpen composition. Guy had a pretty good spring who the Astros opted to not carry because they could send him down, Logan Van Wy.
Yep. Instead,
they go with a guy that many Astros fans are saying, why? Go with Van Wy, not why Montero. Because even though the money is lost, right, the $11.5 million, if Montero never threw another pitch, he's getting all that money this year so that he can make MLB minimum on top of that. So it's not like the Astros can rescue the investment, but there's still a little bit of, well, it's been a while, but he had one nice season in the major leagues. So if you're talking a last man in the bullpen that you carry, all right, see if you can revive your career at least a little bit, Montero, or soak up some mop-up innings. And when the time to send you on your way again gets here, that's what they'll do.
Yeah, I think they're just hoping that maybe by putting him on the team, if maybe he has a little bit of success early in the year, that can get his confidence going and maybe they get something out of him. And we know how up and down relief pitchers are from year to year. And he has experience, playoff experience, all that kind of stuff. You already invested in him. He knows, the coaching staff, the pitching coaches, how the Astros like to do things. So at least in that sense, he's familiar with the program. I think they're just trying to hope to catch lightning in a bottle, and then somehow he comes out and gets off to a good start, and then it kind of snowballs, and he has a decent year. But at this point, that's all it is hope. He just hasn't shown you anything recently to have any confidence in him, but the stuff is there. It just seems to be more between the ears with him. And I can't tell you how many times I see with Montero, he gets up 0-2 on a hitter and then he ends up walking him. He just gets too fine with it, or he loses his release point, whatever it is. And he starts nibbling after he gets up on you like that. And I was noticing that with Arrighetti a little bit this spring. He seems to just be nibbling so much. He said he wants to pitch more like Hunter Brown and add that sinker. But Hunter Brown, outside of this last spring start, he just pummels the strike zone, and it's just kind of like hit it if you can. Whereas Arrighetti he's just kind of trying to hit corners, and he kind of pitches scared a little bit. That's why I see Montero a little bit too. So we'll see. All you can do is hope with Montero, but also not much is expected of him. So if it doesn't work out, they'll quickly make a move.
Contreras, Montero, Okert, all those guys collectively, they pale in consequence to Josh Hader needing to pitch the ninth inning or wherever else called upon, like a guy at least somewhat worth a chunk of the $19 million he collects this season, and again next season, and the season after that, and the season after that. But their bullpen isn't all that important if their starting rotation doesn't live up to what we think is the billing as a top 3 at worst going into the season. American League rotation coming out of the chute: Fromber game 1, Hunter Brown game 2, that both were terrible in their last spring training outings, meaningless. Blanco 3, and then you get to Arrighetti and Wisniewski. Just to mention, since they're opening with the Mets, injuries in their rotation, like virtually everyone seems to have. Not the Astros. They have 5 healthy starters going into live ammo on Thursday. So the Mets are going with Clay Holmes, who hasn't started a big league game since 2018 in the opener. Game 2, Tyler McGill. Joe Espada, I presume you remember. Dana Brown, I presume you remember. Cam Smith took him deep opposite field in spring training weekend before last. So if you're looking for fence tippers, which side to fall on Cam Smith, game 2, a major league pitcher he homered against in spring training.
If you have any thoughts on Charlie's attempt to jinx the health of the starters, you can tweet him at Palillo. All right, guys, we're running a little long here, but Josh, you were looking at some of the betting odds from MyBookie, who are not a sponsor, by the way, but should be. Houston.sportsmap.com/advertise. Josh, you give us the numbers that jumped out to you from some of these betting odds for win totals. And then we can all just give our season predictions. But let's start. There was an interesting one. There was a number for betting, a total for wins before after April, right? So give me some of those numbers that jumped out to you, and we can react to them.
Yeah, I'll start with that one. I thought this was an interesting number based off of the poor start that the Astros got off to last year. So just to kind of remind everybody, last year, by the end of April, the Astros finished 10-19, which was 29 games played. So that's kind of where they were last year, 10-19 through 29 games at the end of April. This year, the odds on MyBookie, they have it at 16.5 is the number. Will the Astros go over and under? And this is 30 games that they'll play between now and the end of April. So I think that's a pretty good number. The way the odds are set, the under is kind of the heavy favorite on this one. But Brandon, you kind of went through the schedule and looked at it. It looks like a pretty good number based on who they're playing and what the team looks like coming in this year. So, I mean, really, if you just don't get off to that disastrous start like you did last year, if you're just right around 500, maybe a little over it, you should hit that 16.5 games. And then quickly, win totals are out for the division. As much as people are kind of poo-pooing the Astros this year, they're still favored with the most wins in their division at 87.5. Rangers behind them at 85.5. Mariners behind them at 84.5, so forth and so on. I thought the other one, odds to win the AL. Astros are third best, plus 760. They're only behind the Yankees and the Orioles. So once again, everybody's so down on the Astros, yet third favorites to win the AL. And then this one I thought was just kind of fun. Jordan, fourth in AL MVP odds this year. So he's only behind Judge, Bobby Witt Jr., and Gunnar Henderson. So maybe we get that 40, 45, 50 home run season from Jordan. Wouldn't that be something? And then he locks up an MVP. So, yeah, I was kind of curious what you guys think. 87.5. Do you think that's a good win total number? And can the Astros win 16.5 or more games through April?
16.5. Their first 6 opponents, the Mets are the only one who finished with a better record last season. Then they get the Padres and also the Royals and Tigers before the end of April. But the first portion of those 30 games, quite manageable. And if the rotation is right, I think to most people, 17-13, hey, you go 17-13, 17-13, 17-13 all season, you win 91 games. Baseball's the macro sport with 162 of them. 16-14, hey, that's one win over 500. 16-14, you wind up winning 86, 87 games, which is the Astros projection. Last season, they won 88 games. So every 30 games, the closest to what their winning percentage was for the season was going 16-14. So it is a good number. I think 87.5 is solid. I'm in kind of a weird dichotomy on them. I'm good with taking the Astros over the Rangers. I'm good with taking the Astros over the Mariners individually, but there's no way the Astros are 50-50 or better to win the American League West. Not as I see it going into this season, right? They barely won it the last 2 years. They have more question marks than we're accustomed to seeing. But if you want to go with organizational DNA and pedigree, even with all the turnover, front office, down to the playing field, as an Astros fan, that's absolutely how you should look at it. It's not cockeyed optimism. It's optimism to see this as a 90-win division champ. But the floor at the start of the season is the lowest it's been in almost a decade.
So I'll give you my number. I think, as we did this exercise a few episodes ago to try to predict whether Houston would have another slow start, kind of ran through this quickly. I think I'd have to go back and look at the numbers again, but I think I was somewhere in the realm of like 2 or 3 games above 500. I think I had them at 17 wins. So I'll take over that 16.5, and give me the over for the season as well. I'll say if it's 87.5, I'll say 89 wins, which is a game better than last season. So I think I don't think, again, Charlie, I don't think it's cockeyed optimism. I agree with you. I think it's just optimism. I think this is a good pitching team. And this has kind of been that's been the hallmark of this team. This is who this team is, just a good pitching team. It's what Jim Crane believes in, is pitching, and more pitching was famously stated over the offseason. So I think they have that. And so if they can get a bounce back year from Jeremy Pena, if they can get that MVP race type season from Jordan, that would be great. And who knows what happens with Cam Smith, obviously the ultimate wild card if he makes this team. So we'll keep our fingers crossed for that. So I take 89 games. Charlie, Josh, what are you down for?
Before you mentioned the number, Josh, 87-75 was the number that I had in mind, down to the last weekend of the season for the division, maybe for a wild card, roughly similar to the last couple of years. If you could assure me they're going to get 85 starts or more among Framber, Brown, and Blanco at the level that those 3 guys wound up pitching at last season, I'd like the Astros' chances a lot. But, man, off career high innings for Brown and Blanco. I don't see McCullers and or Garcia as the cavalry waiting to ride in if needed, and it happens. Outstanding, but I wouldn't want to, bet the ranch on that. So 87, 16-14, just don't get buried early. They overcame it last year, but it's not the way you want to make your living season to season. And let me just throw in on Jordan to throw down the challenge, because I hear he's a regular Stone Cold Stros consumer. Jordan clearly has been a monster. What he's done season to season, he's on a Hall of Fame track as an offensive player. A lot of bulk to add to the numbers, but he's been a beast. That said, there are 14 guys in the major leagues active who, since Jordan became a full season guy, 2021, 4 full seasons, as a full-time, season-long player. 14 guys in the major leagues have had a 40 home run or more season. Jordan's not one of them. Jordan's career high is 37. Second is 35. Right? The playoffs are a different beast, but Aaron Judge has seasons of 62 and 58 and 64. Right? Jordan hasn't hit 40 yet in a season. He last drove in 100 runs in 2021. So if this can be his career year and he turns 28 in June, this is about where the physical prime of most baseball players is considered to be. If he can uncork a 44 home run, 125 RBI season, especially if he's in the 3-hole and you get extra RBI opportunities, having two guys with the chance to get on ahead of you in the first inning. So Jordan, as great as he's been, is there a career year in him? The 2025 Astros sure could use it.
They could. And as far as those AL odds, with him being fourth, with him being a DH, I think that puts him at a little bit of a disadvantage, right? Where if you have a guy that has an incredible offensive season and he plays good defense, maybe he gets the nod over Jordan. But that's what I was thinking, Charlie, is I think that's why they're moving him to DH. They want him to get more bats. They want him to reach 40, 50 home runs and not be injured as much. So if they can get him playing, 150 something games this year, how awesome would that be? Who knows what kind of numbers he could put up. But I have it in my notes here. I hate to agree with Charlie, but I have them at 87 wins also. I just have to be honest. I'd like to be more interesting and say something different, but that's what I believe. I think right around there. I just have a few concerns that if they do have some bumps in the road with the starting rotation, do they have enough to get them through that till people get healthy? And then the bottom half of the lineup is still just a complete unknown right now. We're not going to know. I know Jake Myers, we probably know what we're going to get, but Cam Smith, Chas McCormick, Jeremy Pena, we're not really sure what that's going to look like. And Dubon, could he come out and get off to a hot start like he did when Altuve was hurt that year, where he played much better that year than he has in other seasons?
Let me frame it and pose it this way. I know we're getting ready to get out. The number basically is 87. Which would surprise you more? If they win 97 or they win 77?
Gosh, 97 would probably surprise me more.
Yeah. Well, let's let the commenters react to that as well. Give us your numbers, your prediction for wins, and give us your most surprising scenario for win totals for the end of the year. We appreciate everybody hanging on for an XL episode like this. Remember, our next episode drops Thursday live after the game on opening day. And one last reminder, if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't yet, please click like on this video. And if you listen on podcast on apps like Apple or Spotify, consider giving us a 5-star rating. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, Sports Map Houston, our other channel, Sports Map Texans. We drop bonus episodes as news breaks. Thanks for listening. For Charlie and Josh, I'm Brandon saying so long. And until next time, go Stros.